Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Farmer challenges simple woman to fix this engine. What she shows makes the difference. In the peaceful Iowa countryside, where vast cornfields swayed in the gentle summer breeze, lived a woman named Sarah Miller. Sarah was 35 years old, and her life, though simple, was filled with a bittersweet mix of soothing routines and weighty responsibilities. Widowed for 5 years, she was single-handedly raising her 10-year-old son, Ethan, a lively and curious boy who adored the stories his mother read to him every night before bed. Sarah worked as a library assistant at the small, modest, but welcoming Cedar Grove Public Library, where she found refuge among the stacked shelves. She knew every reader, every favorite story, and every child who came looking for a tale to escape reality. The job offered her a delicate balance, a way to sometimes forget the weight of loneliness. She wasn't a mechanical expert, nor a woman who did heavy farm work, but she was famous in the village for her kindness, her infinite patience, and above all, for her determination. Sarah had that inner fire that drove her to never give up, even when life seemed to throw insurmountable obstacles her way. She loved nature, wide open spaces, the sunsets that lit the sky above the fields, and secretly dreamed of one day taking over the family farm, which had been abandoned since her husband's death. This dream, fragile and distant, was a light in her life. The farm, once full of laughter and activity, had gradually lost its soul, the uncultivated land beginning to become overgrown with weeds. Sarah hoped she could bring this land back to life, for herself and for Ethan, so that he could grow up surrounded by the same nature that had always soothed her. A few miles away lived Jack Harrison, a sturdy and respected farmer whose name was on everyone's lips in the village. Jack was a man of action, a lover of a job well done and of machines that made farmers' lives easier. His old tractor, a model from the 1970s, was his pride and joy and his main tool. This tractor, despite its advanced age, had roamed the fields with him for decades, a silent witness to both successful harvest seasons and more difficult times. But that summer, as the corn harvest approached, Jack was dealt a blow. The old tractor simply refused to start. The engine, though so robust, remained silent, as if frozen in time. Without this machine, the harvest would be in jeopardy, and Jack risked losing thousands of dollars, a blow to him and to the community that depended on it. Disappointed, Jack spent several days trying to repair the machine, trying to find the source of the problem himself. He disassembled, examined, reassembled, but in vain. Each attempt ended in the same disappointment. The tractor remained silent, and the pressure mounted as the days ticked by and harvest time drew inexorably closer. One crisp morning, as the sun was barely rising over the golden fields, Jack ran into Sarah near the old barn on her farm. The soft light illuminated the blades of grass still covered in dew. Sarah was wearing her work clothes, simple but practical, and her hands already showed signs of the busy life she led. Jack had often observed her, this discreet but resourceful woman, always ready to learn, to understand. He knew she had no experience in mechanics, but he had noticed her ingenuity and her ability to solve problems calmly and methodically. That morning, driven by despair and a touch of hope, he decided to challenge her. He approached her, placed a firm but friendly hand on her shoulder, and said in a deep voice, mingled with an almost mocking smile, "Sarah, listen. This engine has been broken for 2 days, and no one, has been able to get it going again. I've tried, my neighbors have tried, but it's as if this old machine refuses to come back to life. So here's what I'm offering you. If you can fix this tractor, I'll give you a share of my harvest. If not, you can forget this story and leave me alone." Sarah turned her head toward the old tractor parked under the shed. Dust coated the rusty parts, and the machine seemed motionless, frozen in a heavy silence. A lump of apprehension tightened in her stomach. She wondered if she was capable of it, if she wasn't just wasting her time, or worse, making it worse. Yet a small flame lit within her, the same flame that had driven her to never give up, to always try, despite the obstacles. She raised her head, met Jack's direct gaze, and replied with determination, "Okay, Jack, I'll try." That day, Sarah set up shop in the farmhouse, a space cluttered with tools and various parts, under the dim light of an old hanging lamp. She had brought with her an old mechanic's manual, yellowed by time, that she had found in the library, as well as a few tools borrowed from Jack. She opened the manual and slowly flipped through the pages, trying to understand each mechanism, each function. Carefully, she examined the engine, running her hands over the rough parts, cleaning off the accumulated grease and rust. Every bolt, every gear, was a mystery to be unraveled. Sometimes she backed away in frustration, her clumsy fingers searching for the right wrench, the right angle. But she always returned, patient, thinking through every move. As the hours ticked by, daylight faded. Sarah remained absorbed in her task. Her hands were getting dirty, her clothes stained with black oil, her fingers sometimes trembling with fatigue. That evening, she returned home, exhausted but satisfied. Ethan was still waiting for her, his eyes shining with admiration. "Mom, you'll succeed, I'm sure of it," he said, squeezing her hands in his. These words were a balm for Sarah. They gave her the strength to continue, to not give up. Every night, she went to bed with the conviction that tomorrow would be a better day, a day when the engine could finally roar again. After several days that seemed to pass between hope and doubt, a miracle finally happened. That morning, Sarah rose before dawn, her hands still covered in grease and her muscles tired, but her mind filled with renewed energy. She walked to the old tractor under the barn, accompanied by Jack, who watched with a mixture of curiosity, hope, and skepticism. The heavy silence of the farm was suddenly broken by the sound of the starter, which she carefully engaged. A harsh roar rose from the engine, a fragile moment, suspended in time. Then, to everyone's surprise, the engine began to run steadily, vibrating once more like a beast awakened after a long sleep. Jack stood there, his mouth open, staring at the machine as it came to life before his eyes. He turned to Sarah, his face lit up with a genuine, admiring smile. "Sarah," he said in a firm, almost emotional voice, "you did more than fix this engine. You proved that courage and willpower are true strengths. You deserve much more than a share of my harvest. You saved this farm, but you also showed the whole village that nothing is impossible." Jack's words warmed Sarah's heart. It wasn't just the technical achievement that filled her with pride, but the deep appreciation for her hard work, perseverance, and soul. In the weeks that followed, word spread quickly throughout Cedar Grove and the surrounding area. Sarah was no longer just the simple, unassuming woman you'd met at the library. She had become a symbol of strength and resilience. Residents began to view her with a new perspective, one of respect and admiration. Farmers came to her for advice, some even offering tools or parts so she could continue repairing their machinery. Gradually, Sarah found the courage to open a small mechanical repair shop on the edge of the village. It was a modest place, but fueled by hope and hard work. She helped farmers maintain their tractors and harvesters, becoming a self-taught expert. The life she led was gradually changing, enriched with new meaning and renewed confidence. Sarah realized that her simplicity, far from being a flaw, was actually a source of energy. Her modesty, her patience, her ability to listen and learn were her most powerful strengths. She now inspired those around her, showing that with self-belief and the will to persevere, one can overcome the greatest obstacles. One summer evening, as the sun slowly sank behind the golden fields, Sarah sat on the edge of the old barn. She watched the sky ablaze with warm colors, the silhouettes of the trees silhouetted against the horizon. Beside her, Ethan played quietly, carefree and happy. In that suspended moment, Sarah knew she had done more than just fix an engine. She had rebuilt her life. She had learned to get back up, to believe in her abilities, and above all, to show everyone that difference is not made in origins or pre-established knowledge, but in determination, self-belief, and the will to move forward, even in the face of the greatest challenges. That day, in the heart of this peaceful countryside, a simple woman had transformed her destiny, and she knew it was only the beginning of a much greater adventure.